Hello and welcome back to my channel. Hopefully it's not the first time that you come, but if you come for the first time, please be welcome and I hope you will like this video. For those of you who have followed me for a certain period of time, you might remember that on my channel I started a few years ago up to, I think the last one was maybe a year or two ago. I did a series about creating a landing page with different builders. And I've tested most of the builders. Of course, some have evolved since then, for sure. But I was creating that same landing page here with different page builders. So, for example, Thrive Architect, Elementor, Oxygen, Breezy, Divi, Bricks Builder, and Breakdance. Didn't do that with, I don't remember its name, Zion? Yeah. Didn't do it with Zion, but anyway, most of the other builders I did it, comparing the time it takes for developing and the output. And I decided today that it was about time to create a new one with how I effectively would create a page. In other words, yes, with bricks, again, because that's the tool that I finally chose, but also with Advanced Themer as the plugin and Automatic CSS or ACSS as the framework. That speeds up things, of course, but that makes it so much easier to change things, to update things. So this is what we're going to do today. I won't use the same pattern where I use a timer because I want to do it the fastest way possible, because I would like to take some time to explain to you at the same time what we're about to do. So this is the page that we're going to build. It's a landing page. So like all the others, by the way, we don't do the pricing table section because not every builder had that. So we just skip that part, but all the other parts we do it with the different builders. Now bricks, I'm on the latest version, which is 1.11.1.1. And I just updated yesterday to ACSS 3.9, so you'll see a new feature inside of that because of that as well. So let's start with our landing page. I already created the landing page, but it's empty for now, so let's open that. And the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to change a few features, or a few settings, I should say, for ACSS. So let's start with that. And in my mind, the first thing that I would do, since I know what I'm about to do, I would probably do all the settings at once. But I decided to change it to make it a little bit different for you so that you can see before we apply the changes what we have by default, and then tweak Automatic CSS a little bit. So I'm going to do some general settings, but not all of them. So the first thing here for the website dimension, the maximum size is going to be 960. That's simply the size that we have here. So I'm going to use the same size as well. I'm going to go in the color palette. Of course, I'm going to create my primary and secondary color. Well, here I've decided so far when I tested it to use the golden as the main color. Because we use it here, we use it here, we use it here as well. I don't know if it's a good idea there, but we don't do that part. Because, of course, the button will not be automatically styled. So I think for that video, I'm going to do the opposite. Hopefully it won't mix me. I'm going to use the purple as my primary color. Okay. So that way the buttons will be styled automatically because it uses the primary by default instead of having to style it again. And of course I'm going to use the golden as the secondary color. So I'm going to do the opposite of what I have tested so far, but bear with me, should work fine as well. So let's use that color here for the primary color. And I don't need the transparencies and the ultra dark. Of course, in a regular site, again, maybe I would keep those because we never know. But now I know that this site is going to be just one page. We will never use another page, supposedly. So I'm going to simply deactivate them. Of course, nothing prevents me from coming back and activating them later. I'm going to need a secondary color as well. So let's use that golden color here. Oops. Copy, 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 copy. Why my paste doesn't work? Anyway, I'm going to type it. I don't know what's going on here. E4 AD22. All right. Again, I can deactivate all of that. The base color is usually for the darkest color, but my darkest color is in fact black in my case, so I don't need that. And I'm going to keep my neutral color. Again, don't need the transparencies. So I'm going to deactivate all of those. And let's save that for now, because I want to show you a few things. Let's refresh, by the way, because sometimes it doesn't take some modifications, more bricks issues, I guess. I had created this color comparison page here to show you what are the colors, the official colors from that website, that landing page, and what we have with the neutral colors, the black one, okay? And honestly, for me, this is really close. The neutral dark, as you can see, is pretty close to what we have. The ultralight is almost the same thing. Neutral light as well, and neutral dark, very, very close, okay? So for me, that would be enough. I would simply use it like that. But for some people, sometimes they need to have exactly, because it's a branding color, they need to have exactly the right color. If I click here, you see that the light here is the, let's see, let's go with the neutral light. Neutral light here, and then click on the right one. So D9, D9, you see here. So all of those are pretty close. Instead of 2A, 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 we have, for example, 1A, 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 pretty close. The dark one, 32, 32, 33, we're on 40, 40, 40. The ultralight, we have FC, sorry, not that one. That one. F2, F2, F2 instead of F6. So you see, really close out of the box. And neutral light, D9, D9, D9 instead of CCC. So all pretty close. But like I said, if you really need a specific color, it is wonderful how easy and flexible ACSS is. So I can come here, just click on any of those color and change the hexadecimal, or in this case for the other chip, the HSL value. So for example, if I want to change the ultralight here, you see that I can change my colors here. Now my colors are in hexadecimal color, so I'm going to need a little converter. So let's say X to HSL. Let's use that one, for example. So if I start with that neutral dark, which is 32, 32, 33. For my ultra dark, I'm always mix neutral dark. So 240, 1%, 20. Most of the time we go with 0, 0, but this one is different, so let's go with that. So neutral dark, 240, 120. So neutral dark is this one, 240 for the H, 1 and 20 for the lightness. All right, so F6, let's go with F6, which is ultralight. I should have changed maybe the order, but anyway, F6, F6. This is the dark one is the color of the text, by the way. So 0096, 0096 for the ultralight. Ultralight, it's 95. You see how close that was? So let's change that to 96. Neutral light, CCC. Oops. 0080, neutral light. So light is that one. So 0085. We'll change that to 80. And the ultra dark 2A, 2A, 2A. Ultra dark 2A, 2A, 2A. You see 0016 for the ultra dark. Ultra dark is this one. You see 16 instead of 10. And if I save that now, should refresh it automatically. So let's take a look now at my colors. So neutral light here. No, not the right one. Sorry. Let's go with that. Neutral dark. Okay. So the dark one is 32, 32, 34 instead of 3, but even closer than it was previously. Ultra dark is 29, 29, 29, which is just the one before 2A. Again, really, really close. CCC, neutral light. Neutral light. Where are you? Here. CCC. And the ultralight has been changed from F6 to white smoke. So just a word, but that's the same color. So you see now we have exactly the same colors. So let's go with that now for our colors. All right, let's go back to here, the typography now. I want all my headings to be uppercase. So heading uppercase. All my headings. I could change, of course, the heading size, but now we need to have very specific size. I'm going to consider that to be an H1, though I'm not sure it should be one. This would be H2, H3. So we have very specific pixel size here. So just to be exactly the same thing, which we don't necessarily require, but in this particular case to have exactly the same thing, to show you again how flexible it is. Let's simply override those things. So for my H1, first of all, the color will always be here in the headings. So I'm going to switch the color to be white. So dash color for white. And I'm going to override the size to be something like, I don't know, 32 and 36. You need to specify both values. If you just specify the biggest one, it's still going to be, well, responsive, but it won't take your 36 pixel. For the H2, I'm going to say 22, 24. And for the H3, I'm going to say 16 and 18. For the regular text, the heading, by the way, is going to be the same font. So I can do that from the text. So for the regular text, we're going to have 14 and 16. So smaller text. The color, I could leave that to text dark, but it's black. I'm going to switch to our neutral ultra dark, which is our 32, 32, 33, or 4. I want my text to be right away. You see here, it's going to change right away, usually. You see, now right away is my main text. And since I didn't specify another one for the heading, it's going to be the same one. And the last thing that I want to do, I know that at some point I'm going to have text like that is a little bit bigger instead of 16, sorry, it's going to be 18. So I could play with that number here to make it just exactly 18, but I won't bother with that. This is the medium size. I'm going to go directly to the large size and override the large size to be exactly 18 pixel. That's exactly what I want. So it will work as expected. So this is all I'm going to do for now. I'm going to come back to the settings a little bit later on to change other things while we develop to show you with and without those settings. So let's close that. One thing that I'm going to do, since most of the container will have everything centered always, I don't want to do that each and every time. Of course, I could create a class and so on, but I'm going to simply come here to my settings and my theme styles, and I'm going to set my container here to be always centered. It's going to create a little problem for that one, you'll see, because this one is not centered, but we will just left align that one instead of align all the others. Using, by the way, the default ACSS that I have imported for the container and for the colors and so on, you can find all the information in the ACSS website. Okay, cool. So let's start with the first section, my header, my hero section, as we call it, with my background image. We have one image here. We have our main heading. We have some text, another text, and a sign up button. So let's deal with that. So with Advanced Themer, I can put all of that on one line. I know we can do the same thing, by the way, with ACSS, but I prefer the way that Advanced Themer does it. We have all those buttons here available at the right side as well. That comes from Advanced Themer. So from there, I can add a section with a container inside of it. Inside my container, I can right away insert all that I need. So I'm going to insert a block first of all, because at some point I want that to be this size. And if I put that, it's going to be centered by default, and I want to left align it. So you'll see later on, but that's why I'm going to add another block. And inside of that block now, I'm going to add my, first of all, I'm going to add my image. I'm going to add my title. I'm going to add text twice, and I'm going to add a button. All right, so everything is added. I'm going to come and expand that a little because of the name. I'm going to rename that to be hero. And again, I'm going to use classes from time to time. I'm going to style the ID from other time because I know that I don't have any page. I know that I won't reuse them. So I know that it's not necessarily the best practice. But I'm not the type that likes to create classes when we don't need. And of course, when we're in doubt, like they say, baby out, yeah, okay, but also use classes. But now I'm not in doubt. So sometimes I'm going to use some ACSS classes, sometimes I'm going to use some classes with BAM, and other times I'm going to style directly on the ID. This way you'll show everything, you'll see everything, by the way, not show, but see everything that is available. Little sip of coffee, sorry. All right, so the first thing here, I want to put my background image. Again, I'm going to do that directly on the ID. I'm going to put my image right here. I'm going to set that to be full size, and I'm going to put it to be center. Here I have my image. Now my text is dark. I could put that on the section or the container or on each element, but of course it's way easier if I put my text color right here on the section or container. Now everything is already light. Cool. I won't use the switcher, but still it's interesting to have that option. Let's deal with the block right away. You see that the block takes the full width. I could have used the div probably to do something similar. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use the class for the width. Not what I wanted to do here. The width, I'm going to set medium, and now as you can see, that's why it is centered. So that's why I want to go to my container and really left align it. So now we have exactly what we want. All right, let's change my image to the logo. Usually I would put alt text caption. I just don't do them to save time. But usually when you insert new images or when you import them, you should always, of course, fill at least the alt text field for accessibility and SEO purpose as well. All right, so I'm going to style it right away. Again, those buttons on the left comes from Advanced Themer, really good. That one as, let's see. I have a small or medium spacing at the bottom just to push it a little bit because you see that the spacing here is not equal everywhere. And that being said, the spacing here is too big, by the way, so maybe it's the good time to go to the next part. For the spacing here, and for my button, as you can see, that is not styled. So let's do those things in ACSS. So let's go back to ACSS here. I'm going to go with the spacing section. Standard spacing is 30. I'm going to increase that to 40. Strange, maybe, yes. But the contextual spacing, I want instead to have the medium, I want to have the small one. So now you see less space between each element. And again, so flexible. So the content inside of each container by default will be smaller. But of course, I don't want to leave that to 30 because it's going to be a little bit too small. That's why I increased that one. Okay, so after the spacing, I want to change my buttons. So first of all, yeah, I did change. So I'm going to remove my secondary button. We'll never use that. I'm going to use my primary button, but I don't need the variations. And by deactivating them, by the way, if you are 100% sure you won't need them, or let's say 90% sure, because you can always come back and reactivate them for the 10%. But if you're almost sure you'll never use them, deactivating them, of course, will put your CSS light or the Advanced CSS, Automatic CSS, sorry, CSS to be smaller, of course, because it will use less classes and so on. So, by the way, while we are there, I'm going to go in the options here, and I'm going to say workflow enhancements. No, sorry. I think it's in... Is that still in experimental? Yeah. Style button automatically. We're going to style the buttons. So, yes, I'm going to remove the classes that are deactivated, and I'm going to do that, sync it each time that I do a save. I might have to refresh Bricks Builder from time to time because of that, but still it's a good thing to do. So let's go back to my buttons. Let's style the buttons globally. By doing it multiple times, I arrived to the conclusion that this is the best size for that button, 0.75 and 4.5. I could have set a minimum width as well, I guess, but this is the size that we need here. Of course, not styled right away. We're going to see that later. Maybe if I save it, because there's already a default, and if I refresh, here we go. That's what I thought. Now it is styled. Okay, so you see my button is already styled, and you'll see why in a few minutes. So let's continue here. So my font weight is going to be 700. I want that to be uppercase. I don't want to have that little radius. So border radius, I'm going to set that to none. Here we go. By the way, I don't know if it has anything to do with the borders here. So we have a border by default that is automatically added. This is for images as well, but I guess it does apply to cards and buttons as well, so I can deactivate that as well. Let me go back to my buttons here. Was that done? I think it was pretty much done for that general button. Yeah. Okay, so let's style now our primary button. So it's going to use, of course, the primary color, but on over, usually it will use a lighter version of it. In our case, we really want to have the secondary color. Again, we can change that. Easy peasy. So secondary, and this is now our secondary color. So again, I need to save that sometimes for Bricks to take it into account. Gonna do the same thing for the border. So, oops, on the over, I'm gonna have the secondary color. Focus, I'm gonna keep the same color. The text color, I could leave it like that, but to be exactly the same as the other one, it's white. So let's use the white color. So this is now what we have for the buttons. The links don't have any links, so that's gonna be all right. I'm gonna go, since 3.9 that was released a day or two ago, we can go with the, I'm gonna deactivate the form, see, by the way, don't need that. Don't have any form. We can go in the options, Bricks enhancements, and you can see here now you can use Bricks UI for buttons. So what will that do? Let's see. Let's save that. And I think I'm done here, so that's going to be all right. So what does that button do? Usually when you add a new button or even a text link, it will work, by the way, you need to add the button. Where is it? Button. The button, for example, secondary or primary, to be able to style it. Okay? You can do that on a button. You can do that on a text link as well. Well, with this new enhancement or new release of 3.9 of ACSS, you can now use the regular style of bricks with the option that I just showed you. Let me show it again. Bricks enhancement, use bricks UI for buttons. Using that, it's going to use the style here in the drop down, and you can use them. So since I use the primary now, it's automatically styled. That's the reason. By the way, you see that we have many here. That's simply bricks. If I'm refreshing here, you should see only the one that you have created in ACSS. You see primary. If I have switch, of course, created the neutral, secondary, and so on, they will appear here as well. So really, really cool. Applied automatically, nothing else to do. I just need to change the caption, and that's all. Sign up now. And of course, if I don't want to have a strange behavior, usually you would have a link. So let's put a dummy link. And now my button is fully functional. So let's add my heading here. So this one should be an H1, by the way. Can change it here or can change it here. So bfit dot be strong is my heading. I'm gonna use the text here, so copy and paste that. Oops. That text has a little bit of padding at the bottom, so let's see. Space S, no. Yeah, okay, space S, yeah. So let's, whoops, not XS, S. Right, so the space here is a little bit different. We have here text that says plans starting at $39. By the way, I forgot, but this text should be a little bit bigger, so let's change the font size, or we could add a class since I didn't create a class. So text larger, text L. I wanted to BEM it out, so I forgot to do it, but anyway. I could also create here, by the way, plan. I can create a class if I wanted to, because now I have more than one thing to change. I'm going to put the variable this time for the larger text. I want to put it in all caps, and I want to put it in bold. So now a little bit worth more to create its own class. And with that done, that hero section is now done. Cool. Next part. Start training today section. Okay, so let's close that just to make it easier. Let's add a new section. In that section, we're going to have, of course, always a title. Then we're going to have a big box that surrounds all of those three columns, and a smaller one, a smaller block for those three elements: image, title, and text. We're going to create a grid, a card for that, by the way. Usually the image should come after the title, so that's what we're going to do, but we're going to use CSS to put it before. So let's do that. So first of all, my main title. Then I'm going to add a block for my three columns. Inside of that block, I'm going to create another block for my first column. And then I'm going to duplicate it later on. So I'm going to create my first column first and then duplicate it after. Instead of that, I'm going to add a title, I'm going to add an image, and I'm going to add a basic text. My heading should be a heading 3, so let's change that right there. Really like Advanced Themer for that. Makes life easier, faster. All right, so let's create right away, I think, my name here for my training card. So let's call that training. Let's simply BEM it out So to be able to use the card, let me show you. Let me activate that first. There's a new feature since a couple of versions called the card framework. So let's go inside ACSS and activate that. And that will automatically style all the card. What you need to do is simply have the dash card word inside of your class. And everything, of course, inside of it, like heading and images and so on, must have that dash card word with it as well. And then use BAM. So, for example, __ heading for the heading. And automatically, all those elements will be applied to it. So let's activate that. Let me right away, well, let me just activate it for now and use the default. I'm going to save that. And then come back and activate it on that card, and you will see it right away. We have light and dark variation. We can manually add that, by the way, but we can also use the dash. Oh, by the way, I forgot here, automatically style cards. Let's activate that. So it does that automatically. Sorry. And what I was about to say, we can change that in the targeting settings, but we will use the dash light or dash dark to specify whether we want to have a light or dark card. In fact, we will use both. This will be a dark because we are on dark background. This will be a light card because we are on a light background. So we'll see that together. So like I said, if I come back here with my BAM, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to use my dash card word here to automatically apply the card framework. And I'm going to use dash dark here because I'm going to use the dark one. Let's apply classes. And you see automatically it has been applied. So now I have my padding, have my dark background and so on because I'm using the dark card. And my heading has the __ heading. So using BAM, everything will work perfectly fine. So let's go back to our ACSS to change the settings now. Hopefully Bricks will show us what we want. So my padding here inside of it is a little bit too big for me. It's going to take 2 lines here instead of 1 line. Not what I want. So let's simply change that to be a different size. And I think it's XS that I want in this particular case. Forgot to follow my notes. Know most of it by heart by this time. So just want to make sure, yeah, that's XS. Card content gap here, the gap between the elements is already divided by 2, so I'm going to keep it like that. Typography, by default, it uses the H3 as the size for the heading, which is perfectly fine, but the text size is smaller, which I don't want in this case. So I'm going to use my text M, which is the regular text size. So good for that. After that, my borders. So the borders here are for both the light and dark cards at the same time. We know that the dark one will not have a border, but the light one will have one. So I don't want to deactivate that. If I wanted to deactivate it, I could say none, and no cards will have borders. But now one card needs to have one, the other one not. So I'm not going to change it here. I'm going to say border radius, though. You see that we have a radius. I don't want to have a radius, so radius none. No more radius. I don't have any icon avatar. We will have a media. So again, I already removed the radius by default, so I guess it will not have it. But if I don't want to have any chance, I can remove the radius for my image right here later on if I want to. The options, we already set that to automatically style the card. We have the light by default, but that's okay. I don't need to target anything since I'm using the dash light and dash card. Let's go now with the light card and dark card. We don't see the light for now, but just follow me. The background, you see that it adds a background by default. I don't want to have a background. I just want to see through it, have the same color as the previous one. Of course, I could set a dark background, something like that. But in this case, I just want it to be transparent. And honestly, I never tested if it really takes it or if it just makes an error in ACSS. But this is the wording, and I guess it should work. This is the name that we should use when we want to have a transparent background. The CSS name. And in color, that's going to be for the light card, text dart is fine. It uses that from the text, by the way, setting. The text color, though, will be the same color, so not the text dart muted, but text dart. I don't want it to be lighter. Let's set like that. We don't have a link or buttons, but you can change those if you wanted to. And for the light card, we will want to have the light color. So neutral light will be the color for our card. The border of the card. For the light one, let's go with the dark one because I'm done here. So same thing here. I don't want to have that black background, so let's put that transparent. Of course, I'm gonna have a different color later on. The text light will be all right. I'm gonna use text light here. I could use white, but if you know, text light is white, by the way. And the border color, I don't want to have any color for the dark ones, so it's gonna say transparent again. So we do have a border, but it's transparent. Again, if I don't want a border on any card, I can change it here. But it's not my case, okay? And by the way, the border is taken from the border property that we saw previously. And the radius as well, but we set that to be none. So let's save that. And to be able to see that better, let's go to our section here. Let's type our start training today. Training today is the name of the section. Let's copy that because it will be our heading as well. And while I'm there, I'm going to change that a little bit as well. So the spacing here is too big for what I need. So let's change that. This one I think is going to be small on the top and extra small on the bottom. Of course, the background color will be secondary now. Changed it. And I want my text to be light. So easy and fast. And the big advantage of using ACSS is not only to go fast, but to have continuity, to have everything styled the same. And if I change my color for example, the light color at some point, it will change everywhere at once. Makes life so much easier. All right, so now I'm done for that section. Let's go with our block here. I want that to be on 3 columns, so let's use our grid 3 column here. You see I have a preview at what it'll look like. I'm going to use 1 column for the medium size, so you hold the control key, by the way, to have the different breakpoints. So I know right away that on medium it's going to switch to 1 column. Whoops, I don't know why it shows me 4 columns now. I have 3. So bricks issue here again. Does happen from time to time. It's the first time that it does happen to me while I practice that, but anyway, does happen from time to time. All right, back to 3 columns. Okay, so on side of that block here, my theme card, I want everything to be centered. So my title is centered. I want my heading, I'm going to change my heading here to be train at your own time. Of course, I could change that right here in the text as well. I'm going to change my image to be this one here. Everything should be centered in my card. Now I want that image to come before, so I'm going to switch my order to be -1, so it comes before. And I'm going to add a little bit of spacing below it. This text here, I'm going to use my lorem ipsum text. And by the way, with Advanced Themer, I could use some lorem ipsum text as well with a button. But let's use that one to make sure that it's the same length. Here we have that little button here to add dummy content if we wanted to. And in the Advanced Themer settings, we'll decide whether it's lorem ipsum or some pre-filled text, which is English, to tell the user that it's just a default temporary text. I want to center that, so let's go and center it. So again, doesn't show it in bricks. I don't know what's going on. Usually, sometimes I have to refresh once, but now I have to refresh quite often. I don't know why. Looks like it didn't take it. Now everything's fine. It does happen from time to time. We click on something and it doesn't change. We change the title, for example, and the title stays the same. We move to another place, we come back to it, and it's back to what it was before. So it does happen to me from time to time, unfortunately. Since they have changed, I think it was in 1.9 or 0.10, they changed the refresh, and sometimes it doesn't refresh the right way or as quickly as we want. So anyway, everything is styled the right way here. I know also that at some point it's going to be like that. So let's take care of that right away. It's way too big here, that text and that block. So what I want to do, I want to use my CSS again to make it a maximum width so that it's not too large. But of course, when we do that, it's now aligned left. So I'm going to go to my block here and make sure that the content, justify content, is aligned centered when we switch to media. I could put that right there, by the way. I should have done that maybe. Instead of putting it here, I could put that right here, but I just wanted to show you what it's gonna do on that size. Okay. Here I put it on the, again, that breakpoint. So could leave it like that, or I can switch it to be on the main breakpoint. Really up to you, because of course it's going to be only on that breakpoint anyway that we need it. Right, so now everything is exactly as I want it. So now it's a good time to duplicate that thing twice, change the image and change the text. So here I'm gonna just change the title, of course, training ebooks and videos, and videos, and that one as well. Change the image and resistance training. By the way, don't use the buttons here to center it, things like that, because it's going to apply that on the ID level. So if that's not what you want, even if the class is selected, it's going to still add that to the ID level. All right, cool. Section is now done. I need to, since I have refreshed my page a couple of times, I need to create another one. Here we go. Good. Next section. So next section is the feature class. So again, we have one title in the middle, like always. We have one box repeated 3 times with an image border around it. So again, we'll put the image after, but switch it like we did previously. Let's create our section. Inside of that section, like we said, we will have one title. We will have one block for our 2 elements. Inside of that block, we're gonna have another block. So let's do it like that. I prefer to always use blocks that are full width. I know that some people prefer to use div. I would need maybe to practice a little bit more with divs, but I like to use blocks. And the image, inside of that block, we're going to have one title and one basic text, and that title, of course, will be in H3. So let's work with that. My section here, it's going to be featured classes, and again, I'm going to copy that because I'm going to use that also as my heading a little bit later on. Let's come right now and style it since we're there. So that one feature class will have a smaller section space. And we're going to have a little background. You see that the background is gray as opposed to that one, which is really white. So it depends on the monitor sometimes whether you can see it better or not. So let's add a background color, which will be a light, ultralight, neutral ultralight. Sorry. All right. Of course, dark text on it. Don't need to change that. Our block here, we're gonna use that for our classes. Let's call that classes, let's say. We're gonna create a card out of that like we did previously. We have one heading, one basic text, one image. Sorry, it's not the one. This is the one that I want to, no, okay. Forget it. Right. We could create wrappers, by the way. Wrappers should be ignored by the card system. Right, so let's create BEM elements out of that. So again, I'm going to use dash card to trigger the card framework. And I'm going to use dash light to use the light version. Apply class. And you see already something have been applied. Let's paste here our featured classes and start to style everything here inside of that class and block. So my class here, the block itself, I want that to be, I'm going to use the grid again. So grid here, I'm going to use the 1-2 grid. And whoops, I think it didn't take it the right way. So grid, the 1-2 grid. And again on medium, we're going to use 1 column instead. Of course, right now the text is on the left side. I don't want to have any gap inside of it again, and I don't want to have any padding either. So I'm going to go inside my layout here, remove the padding. Again, I didn't do that on all the cards. By default, the cards have an XS spacing or padding. But I don't want any in this particular case because of my image. So now this one is done. Let's go with the image right away. Let's start with that one again. I'm going to put the image first so that we can see it better. Again, usually I would use my alt text and so on. That image, we have a class on it. I'm going to change the order to be -1. So now it's on the left side on the smaller part. Also, after that, I want my right column or my block here, if you prefer now, to be stretched. So as you can see now with my border, it takes the height of the content. When I stretch it, it takes the full height. And now I can center my content in the middle. The spacing that we have here is a little bit too big for the content that will be there later on with the padding and so on. So we need to change a couple of things here as well. So let's see. I have in the row gap right now, I'm going to use a calc because it's not exactly extra small. It's smaller than that. So let's use calc var, and I'm going to use my space XS, but I'm going to divide that in 2. So you see now the spacing is a lot smaller. Way better than using pixel, again, because if we ever change that, it's going to change everywhere. Now I want that block to have some padding, so the padding size that I will use will be the space S. And here we go. So now all I need to do is change my title and content. So Bikram Yoga here. And I'm going to use some lorem ipsum text for the text here. And now it's time to duplicate that since I'm done. So let's duplicate that class twice. and just swap the image and title. Of course, it's some lorem, some text, so we don't change the other thing. That's the one. Always put alt text usually. So I don't know if it's an error here. It's a hit max, so I don't know if it's an error, but I'm gonna do the same thing. Maybe that's something that I don't know about, so I'm gonna leave it like that. And whoops, strength GTH boot camp. I have some problems with my ends, so cannot really go fast, unfortunately, because of that. But anyway, strength bootcamp. So now it is exactly as we want it to be. We'll deal with the mobile and tablet view later on. I did that previously for the other one. Maybe I should have waited, but anyway. Next section, meet the owner. So again, a title, but this one has a one big block with an image. Again, some text here with another block here with 2 elements. And here I'm going to use a basic text and a rich text for those 2 elements with a line separating them. So let's build that together. So new section, inside of that section title. After that, we're going to have a block, like I said, with 3 elements inside of it. So first of all, an image. This time I'm going to put the image first. Okay, make it easier to work with. Then a block, or 2 blocks to be more precise, 1 or 2 columns. I could have put an image inside a block with an image wrapper. I know that Kevin often does that. So up to you if you want to do that. Inside of that block, I'm going to use a heading. I'm going to use 1 basic text, and I'm going to use another block. And inside of that block, there's going to be an image and a basic text. Third column, I'm going to add 1 basic text and 1 rich text. Let's go and style all of that, or maybe not just style, but put the content. So meet the owner here. Again, I'm going to copy that. While I'm there, I'm going to style it. So this one, we have extra small, sorry, not in the right section, small space above and below. So small one. This text here, meet the owner, and this one is going to be the golden color. So I'm going to add a class here for text secondary. Now let's create our content maybe before putting the elements. So my image here is Cecilia. Text here is Cecilia via Newville. It's going to be an H3, by the way, because we have an H2 here. But it's the same size as an H3, an H2, sorry. But it should be an H3. Semantically speaking, and for accessibility. So we'll take care of that later on. Well, let's do that right away. I'm going to simply add the class here for the text to be H2. So that way it's the same size as the H2. I won't create class, so that's why I do it right away. So some lorem ipsum text here again. Let's copy that, make sure I'm exactly the same size. The image here inside the blocks will be my small image here. And after that, I'm going to add some non-lorem ipsum text this time. The 2 texts here are my 2 texts for the last column. So the first one is simply some quotes. So basic text, I'm going to put some what we call an entity. So the ampersand, I think that's how we call that. The LD quote for the English quote. So it's pretty small. We cannot really see it right now, but let's change the font size here to be 72 so we can see it better. And the color will be secondary. So this is what we want. And the rich text will be this text here. So again, I won't paste it here because it doesn't seem to keep the italics if we do that, but if we paste it here, everything is fine. That block here don't necessarily need classes for now. We simply put that to be, we use the flex here to put them side by side like that. All right, so now the time to build our 3 columns. So let me go back to my overall container here, that block here. Should rename that maybe, but anyway. All right, I'm going to use a grid again, but I don't want to use the ACSS grid because it has a specific dimension. I want to specify the image. I don't want the image to resize, in other words. So the image will be fixed, and the other 2 columns will resize depending on the space that we have. So in order to do that, we'll need to switch to grid. Now you see that we have 1 column by default. I'm going to remove all the gaps, by the way, for now. So no gap. And I'm going to put my 3 columns. So 225 is the size of the image. So now you see the image is the right size. And the other 2 columns will take the space left. So 1 FR, 1 FR. We divide that in 2. And now we have our 3 columns. For the second column here, I'm gonna come and put some space on each side. So it's gonna be the space S. And I wanted to add a border, but I realized that we can use the ACSS border instead of putting a border here. So I'm gonna use the class for that. But first of all, of course, let's style it. So borders and dividers here, I'm going to use the border radius. I don't want to have any border radius, but that's okay. It's going to be just on one side. Border width, okay. Border style, okay. But the color, I want to have the neutral ultralight from memory. Let's just make sure that no, it's just neutral light, sorry. Neutral light, the darker one. All right, I want to use the dark one, but you could certainly, of course, if you wanted to, say neutral. Neutral, if I can type, dark. Put a dark one. All right, let's save that. And of course, if you create a class, you won't do that probably, but since I didn't create a class, I'm going to use the ACSS class for the border. And you see that when I type border, you have the border top, right, bottom, and all of them divided. So I can put a border right, or I can put a light or dark border right. I want the light border right. So now you can see I have my border right there as I want it. By doing it like that, I make sure that if I ever make a change, of course, for other pages, all the borders will have the same settings. Last block here, I'm going to put some padding on the left side only, the small size as well, and that's about it. I have my 3 columns with the same amount of space here between each of them. Meet the owner is done. Oh, no. That little block here, I forgot. So little block here, same thing. I'm going to use my grid. I'm going to use a really small gap this time. And of course, the first image, just like this one here, I'm going to put a specific size, which is 30 pixel, and 1 FR for the rest of the content. Here we go. Now, media owner is done. As we already mentioned, we're going to skip the tables, the pricing tables. So let's go with the footer, last section. Pretty easy to do. So section. And this is basically just a text. So I can enter basic text, and I put it like that by purpose, but because it's not going to be a basic text. Let's rename that footer. I can use the, first of all, maybe here, the spacing will be extra small. I'm going to use the background colors. So background ultra dark, neutral ultra dark. And of course, because of that, I'm going to use some light text. Finally, I want to have the copyright symbol, but also I want to have a link. So because I want to have a link, I will need to change that to a rich text. And I did that by purpose because I want to show you that really easily with Advanced Themer, I can right click and convert. And I think I'm so used to use Advanced Themer, but it is an Advanced Themer feature. I can switch my text to be a rich text or a heading. In my case, I want to switch that to a rich text. Now I can come here. I'm going to put a dummy character here and come back to change it after that. Copyright 2024, mail media. I'm going to turn that into a link because now I can do so with a rich text format. Mailmedia.ca is my website. I'm going to click here so that I open that in a new tab. And I'm going to click on my text here to change my R into the entity, the HTML entity called at the ampersand symbol, copy, semicolon. That will transform that into the copyright symbol. And now I'm done. Oh, I forgot. Previously, I've used to always have my default link. I switched the color from primary to secondary, if you remember. So I think it's going to be better here if my link is the secondary color and not the primary color, not the secondary color. Which one is the secondary? I'm all mixed up. Sorry. Primary is that one. Okay. So if I want my links, let's say, to be the secondary column, I can, of course, use the secondary class, or I can come here in my links and say that I want to style that with the secondary color instead. Secondary works out of the box. Maybe I want to change the overcolor as well to the secondary. Makes more sense. Here we go. And this is how we can quickly do that for the entire page or a website if we have more than one link. And here we go. Oops, I forgot to change my heading here, apparently. Probably that I refreshed. So let's first of all start training today, I think was the title. Save. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to save. Sorry. Come on. So probably that I have to change the preview. Maybe I refresh the page at some point. As you can see, everything is working as expected. So now let's take a look to finalize that the other breakpoint. Everything is already fine here. Oh, you see that I forgot to put my title centered. So on one line, that's perfectly fine. But when it goes on two line, I don't want that. I'm going to put everything on the desktop view. So let's come to my heading here and simply make it centered. So that now if it goes on two line, it is still centered. Everything's fine here. Everything's fine here. Let's go with the mobile landscape. Still fine. Now it goes to one column. We already took care of the width and center previously, but we have the same thing here. Of course, my image are really blurry. I would need to have better images than those, but let's keep it like that. This I want to go back to just like above, one column. Since I'm not using ACSS classes, I'm going to do that on the breakpoint. It's already, this is the right one. It's already grid, 0 gap, but now I want to change that to be one column. So just one FR, exactly like that. But now I do want to have some gaps. So I'm going to put my content gap, let's say, as the gap. Perfect. Again, would need a better image, but anyway. And for mobile, everything is still fine as well. So I hope you find that helpful, instructing, you liked it. Of course, don't forget to put a thumbs up if you did like it. Put comments, really like comments, help me to create better videos after that. And have a good day. And of course, right now I'm at the end of the year, so happy holidays if it's your case as well. So see you in another video. Thank you.